What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, shout out to the brother Clark Ware for the donation to the channel via the PayPal. He says, "Fam, I may not always agree with you, but still support you whatever I can give, even if I come off strong sometimes. You and Ticket are my guys." Salute to you, brother. Yeah, I know you support us, man. And, I don't mind people disagreeing with me. I never want to give the impression that people have to always agree with me. That's not me at all. I can accept other people's opinions. The problem I have is when a person only wants you to respect their opinion and don't even consider yours. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes it's like, I get it when we have opinions, we're passionate about it, but sometimes a person may just come to a different conclusion. And you got to give people the benefit of the doubt, especially if they can explain why they feel the way they feel. The person can explain why they feel the way they feel. And no, that's not, I don't need to change any battery. It's just my laundry thing. I'm going to get there in a minute. I know y'all be listening. Hey, man, why you change the battery in your goddamn smoke detector? No, it's not the smoke detector. But anyway, salute to you, brother, for showing love, man. So let's get to this, all right? So recently, I think it's Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter, right? I think they have a podcast called Cousins. I think that's the name of it. Excuse me, because everybody know that Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter are cousins, right? Two of the great players of their generation. And they had Ron Harper and Ron Harper's sons, who I believe are entering this year's NBA draft. And of course, Ron Harper, made some noise recently saying that unlike LeBron James, he didn't pressure his sons. He didn't never want to ever give his sons the impression that they have to go play basketball. He never put the type of undue pressure on them, right? So anyway, during this podcast, they asked him a couple of questions. They asked him about Phil Jackson back in the day, referring to Scottie Pippen as the best all-around player on the team in the NBA, perhaps better than Jordan. And, Ron Harper being, first of all, I saw the clip on the brother, The Truth, on X. So I want to give him a shout out. But this is like a longer version of the clip. So, Ron Harper is a very diplomatic guy, very loyal to that Chicago Bulls team. So he gave Pippen his flowers, and he gave Michael Jordan his flowers, saying that Jordan was the greatest clutch performer in the history of the NBA, at least in his opinion. I want to say this about the brother Ron Harper before I go forward, too. Seeing a lot of evil demons on social media making fun of his stuttering, right? Number one, his stuttering has actually improved dramatically over the years. It was pretty bad when he was a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers when he was a little bit younger. But he's gotten better with it, but he still has that slight stutter. And another thing about people who stutter, when you look at the history of people who have had stutters, Thomas Jefferson was a stutterer. Winston Churchill had a stutter when he was younger. Joe Biden has a stutter that has become a little bit more pronounced as he's gotten older, because he's losing control of his ability to mask it. James Earl Jones was a stutterer. All those individuals I named were highly successful and very intelligent. Okay? So one of the things about people who stutter is their brain moves so fast that their mind is quicker than their mouth. And oftentimes their mouth has problems catching up to what they're thinking. hence the stuttering. So this, oftentimes there's this stigma that people that have stutters are not intelligent. Actually, it's the opposite. Some of your most intelligent people, some of your most brilliant people have stutters, and history shows it. When you look at many of the geniuses, the most brilliant people, they often had stutters or some type of language defect, like Einstein growing up. So, I just want to put that out there. About Ron Harper, he was being diplomatic about Pippen and Phil Jackson, saying that. I said this in a video maybe a week and a half ago about Phil Jackson. Phil was a master strategist. And Phil recognized that Scottie had a lot of insecurities playing with Michael Jordan. Okay. Scottie didn't like, oftentimes during the first, few years they played with each other, that the media referred to the Bulls as Michael Jordan and the Jordaneers, right? Scottie wanted recognition in his own right. So by Phil talking about all the things that Scottie does, right, and sort of making it seem like Mike just scored, which wasn't true at all, it made Scottie feel valuable in what he did. Scottie scored a little bit. Scottie rebounded a little bit. He facilitated a good deal. He improved on his leadership abilities, although he still kind of rankled and faltered. Rankled many and faltered when he was in that top spot, because that's not where he feels comfortable. Michael was more of that leader, and he became more assertive when he came back. But Scottie was just suited personality-wise to be a number two. Okay? So what I'm saying is that Phil was kind of strategic in saying Scottie was this, that, and the other. Now, about Ron Harper thinking that Scottie is the greatest small forward of all time, well, I totally disagree with that. I don't think he's better than Larry Bird. I don't think he's better than Julius Erving. I don't think he's better, than, say, trying to think of others. I wouldn't put him ahead of Kevin Durant. I wouldn't put him ahead of, John Havlicek. There's a lot of guys who at that position who I think were better than Scottie Pippen. I think he's a top 10 all-time small forward, but I think he's kind of near the bottom of that list. But about Michael Jordan being one of the great clutch performers, absolutely. I think the greatest clutch performers in the history of the NBA, off the top of my head, are Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Jerry West. In my opinion, just a little bit below from those guys is maybe like a Kobe Bryant. But he's right there in that category. But those guys are some of the great clutch performers. I'm gonna tell you another guy who I think is underrated in that department and never got his credit, and that's Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony is one of the great clutch performers, even by the numbers. When you think about it, if you look at his career, when a team of his needed a big bucket down the stretch, he would often be the guy that would convert on that shot. Wade had some of that ability too. We know who's one of the worst performers in the clutch in NBA history. Mr. One-on-one ain't real basketball himself. Mr. shoots 64% from the line in 4 quarters for his career. Mr. shooting 30% from three this season from three, but he's a better shooter outside than Michael Jordan, they like to say. But anyway, man, salute to Ron Harper. For those of you who are younger, Ron Harper was seen as a poor man's Michael Jordan when he was in his prime in the 80s and early 90s. After that knee injury, he wasn't quite the same player. He wanted to play with the Clippers. He still was scoring 19, 20 points a game, but wasn't quite the same player. Then he had another injury. Then he went to the Chicago Bulls, accepted a role as a defensive player, in 94, 95, kind of struggled on defense, worked on his leg strength extensively during the 1995 offseason, and then came back in 95, 96, Michael's first full year, and he was a totally different player on defense. Like, he was a shutdown, lockdown defensive point guard. And, yeah, man, salute to Ron Harper. Tell me what you guys think.